one of our favorite guests. Always so energetic and educational every time we have you with us. Brian Peterson, he's the founder of Bees in the D. How are you?
I'm great. Thanks for having me again.
So, for those that aren't familiar, maybe didn't catch our previous interviews, tell us more about Bees and the D's. And we're a year into this pandemic. How are you guys doing?
So we're a nonprofit based in Detroit, thus the D, and we work with bees. So there you have bees in the D, and our mission is the conservation and education of our pollinators. We mainly focus on honeybees, but we've really expanded to all of our pollinators and a lot of the native bees as well. Yeah, it's been an interesting year with the pandemic. I always like to try to find the silver lining in everything. We've had to cancel a lot of our events, but it has allowed us to do a lot of virtual events and has opened up being able to talk with people from now all over the country, but even the world. I've been a guest speaker for a lot of virtual places in California, even all the way over in London. And so I'm trying to find that silver lining, but boy, do I miss being face to face with people.
I know. What's so fascinating, though, we need bees, but for so many of us, we run from them and we're afraid of them. How do you find the love for the bee and convince people to love a bee?
Well, let me first just share that most of the time that you're running from a bee, you're probably not running from a bee at all. You are probably running from a cousin of the bee, a hornet or a wasp, because most bees are actually very docile creatures and rarely want anything to do with you unless maybe you really disturb their hive. But with that said, bees tend to leave you alone if you leave them alone. And so a lot of times, the more you react, the more they're going to react. And so we always try to encourage people. I know that's kind of scary when they're buzzing around your face, especially to stay calm. But we try to encourage you to just walk away slowly if something is bothering you, because chances are you may be in its space. And or you have something that it may like, or you might just smell really nice, wonderful perfume or cologne, or have some food. But yeah, it is a challenge for us to try to clear up some of the misconceptions. And I want to make sure you understand, we respect people's fears. I mean, I have a very bad fear of heights, but I still try to challenge myself with those. So I'm not discrediting people's fears, because it's natural for some of us to have those fears, and that's okay.
So, with that, how many times have you been stung?
Everybody wants to always know that. Well, keep in mind, I'm working with millions of bees. And so if you really think about it, with how many millions of bees I work with, the few times that I've been stung is very, it's quite shocking. People expect me to have this huge number because I'm around. I mean, one hive itself has 60,000 and we have almost 200 hives. And so that's a lot of bees. But yes, every once in a while I get stung, but I'm going to be honest with you. Most of the times that I get stung, it's my fault because I wasn't careful, or I accidentally pinched the bee and it kind of got scared. So not as many times as you would think, but I don't count.
Brian Peterson with us here on the MegaCast. He's the founder for Bees in the D. One thing we noticed the other day on the side of our house, we have a bee hive that is growing. And normally, I will say, before we met you, I would probably take, the hose and spray it down. But now I'm like, no, we might need those bees. What should people do?
So that's a great question. And there are different kinds of hives. So if it is a hive that's forming on the outside of your house, especially if it's kind of gray and paperish looking, those are actually not bees. Those are wasps. And so you may want to remove those, but maybe have a professional do it, just because they tend to be a little bit more, and I don't even like to use the word aggressive, even with the wasp, they're more defensive. And you want to be able to enjoy your backyard. Now, I'm so happy you brought this up, though, because right now is mason bee time, a little bit earlier than usual because we were having some nice warm weather. But mason bees are a native bee that are solitary. and they're looking for little holes and crevices. And a lot of times in brick, they will use that hole, and people think, oh no, bees are taking up, residency in my house or making a nest. They're not. They're actually just looking for a place to lay an egg or a few eggs that will then later emerge. They stop being active around June, and you really can coexist with those mason bees. Or what you can do is encourage them to go towards the back of the yard by getting bee condos that you can get at Meyer and at Home Depot and Costco, which look like a bunch of tubes in what looks kind of like a birdhouse. And that's how those native bees reproduce, but they're not like honeybees that form large colonies. So I would encourage you to make sure you identify or try to identify what insect is making the nest. And we have a great resource on our webpage at Bees in the D under education, under bees, that has like a flow chart. So you can try to help identify the bees on your own, or wasp.
Well, we don't like the wasp, but when we're going into the spring and the warmer months too, it really does seem past 5 years maybe that there's been so much focus on bees right now and the importance of bees. Why do we need them?
This just brings me so much joy that I joke with people that the bees are the new panda, because quite a while we were really the wildlife World Wildlife Federation was trying to help the panda, and it worked. I mean, people really wanted to help, and now the bees have really come center stage, and for the very reason that you just asked, how important they are. They are so important to our food industry because they are master pollinators, which then create more food for us, which then keeps the diversity of food great, and it keeps the prices of our food lower because there's more supply. They're also very important that a lot of people don't think about it, to our ecosystem, because they're also pollinating other plants that we may not eat, but other animals that are a part of the food chain eat. And so they really are foundational to the health of an ecosystem.
It's hard to love them though.
I don't know. They're pretty cute.
But I'm thinking like that video of all the baby pandas that were, sliding down the slides and rolling and tumbling. Like I could watch that a million times. Bees.
Fair enough. But if you see some of the videos of the bees cleaning themselves off, it's pretty cute. They're pretty fuzzy and cute as well. It's just you gotta get past some of the other thoughts we have about them.
Well, you really have done an amazing job of bringing awareness about bees. And you've been so creative, too, with coming up with some of these hives throughout the city of Detroit. But we know this past year, like you said, you're a nonprofit. How is fundraising going?
It's okay. We're pretty fortunate that people can sense our passion and they know the importance of our mission, that we're keeping ourselves afloat. But you're right. It's been a little bit more difficult. We haven't been able to do our big fundraising events. But luckily, some people have stepped up. Believe it or not, this sounds really, but on Facebook, you can do birthday fundraisers. Mm-hmm. And more people are choosing Bees in the D for their fundraiser, and not these huge amounts, like thousands and thousands of dollars, but like $100 or $200. And those really start to add up. And we've also been very fortunate that it was an incredible honey year last year. And so we can sell that honey. We have some great partnerships with Detroit City Distillery making a honey whiskey. A lot of breweries, we're going to be adding bees at Founders. And we've done a few beers with them. And so that brings in a little bit of income as well. And all the partners that help with supporting us as well, where we place bees, has really kept us afloat. So we're very fortunate that there's a lot of very giving and supportive people out there, even during these challenging times.
So what is the process for harvesting the honey?
It's so fun. It's sticky, but it's fun. And so what we do is we don't take certain amounts of honey because the bees need that. That's their food. But we're very fortunate that bees are very productive and they make too much honey, or I shouldn't say too much, but more than what they need. And so we're able to harvest the surplus, and that's in the upper boxes. And so we just take the frames And then they have it all capped up in wax. It keeps it preserved, kind of like if we put things in Tupperware. We have to take the lid or the caps off of that, though each little cell, and we use a hot knife to do that. And then we have something that's called an extractor that spins the frames in centrifugal force, throws the honey out of the cells and off to the side. It drips down, and then we can do a light filtering. We don't process it because you want to keep all those wonderful things in it. And then those frames can go right back in the hive, and the bees can continue filling it again. It really is magical.
Wow.
So what is the time constraint on that? Like, is it 6 weeks, 6 months for you to be able to
really,
get honey off of that?
Most beekeepers do one, maybe two harvests in the summer season. If it's a really good spring that's got lots of moisture and the bees can bring in a lot of nectar to make into honey, you could do a harvest in the end of June. But sometimes there's just not enough to harvest in June. And usually the main harvest is the beginning of September.
We're talking with Brian Peterson. He's the founder for Bees and the D. I know that you have big plans, one being the Education Community Center. Tell us more about that.
We are so excited. We are hopefully in the final, it got a little stalled because of the pandemic, but we're hopefully in the final steps of working with the Land Bank of Detroit to get quite a few lots. And we've been working with Studio Detroit, which is an amazing architectural firm, and they helped design for us upcycling shipping containers to make a pollinator education center, the first of its kind. And it's going to be right in Detroit. So we're so excited about that. And we want it to not be just for pollinators. We want it to be a community center where people can use it, where there's gardens for people to enjoy. And so we're going to start our fundraising soon for that. We kind of just wanted to put it on hold for the pandemic because it was, people are struggling, and we didn't want to be asking for money at times when people probably were struggling a little bit more, but we're really excited about it. And it will be a great education center for learning more about beekeeping, and actually being a center where you can learn about beekeeping right there. So we're super excited about that.
So how much money do you need to raise, do you believe?
Well, that's what's been surprising, because you don't realize how expensive things are until you start diving in and perking the land that where there used to be houses, and having the environmental studies, and then bringing everything in and the construction and all of that. So we're setting our goal at about $500,000 to have everything, like that's for everything to get done. So it's quite a lofty goal, but we're optimistic. We know we're going to be able to do it.
But you are so passionate. I can feel the passion through the screen. You must really love bees. How did you even become this passionate?
It was out of the goodness of others. And that's what makes it even more special, that a garden club sponsored for me as a teacher to learn about beekeeping, paid for everything. And it was kind of with the understanding that I would give back and help educate people about bees. So I feel I have an obligation to do this, but little did I know I would love it so much. And so that's a lot of it. And I just know their importance. And a lot of people know my story. The bees were there for me. I call it my yoga. When I was really struggling, going in a hive was just magical for me. And so it's my turn to give back to the bees, because they really did give to me.
Well, I'm sure they're quite proud of you, and they definitely, by sponsoring you, got more than their money's worth, because you are educating people all across the world. So what's next, do you think?
Well, the education center is the big thing right now, but we are developing a lot more partnerships, and we're very excited that many cities are getting involved. We've been working with West Bloomfield, but now we're going to be working with Royal Oak Parks and Taylor, and a lot of other communities are realizing that the importance and how we can really coexist with these important insects. And that's exciting for us. So we're very excited about, and we're going to be at the Detroit River International Wildlife Refuge, which we're very excited about. It's such a beautiful place, and we'll be able to reach a bigger audience with education there as well.
So where are some of your hives, just off the top of your head?
Oh, geez, the list goes on because we're about 60 locations now, but a lot in the city. And it's kind of fun. Like you said, some are on rooftops, like on the Shinola Hotel, the Foundation Hotel. We're on the TCF Conference Center. We're at the Outdoor Adventure Center. We're in some urban gardens. Just so many and wonderful places that it's just, it, I never imagined that so many people would see our passion, like you said, and be willing to invest in this mission that we have.
Well, when you need to harvest the honey for the one on top of the Shinola, I'll come with you, but can we also plan it around sunset so we can get the views?
Oh
Oh,
yes.
I'm counting. Our bees have some of the best views of the city, and that's what's so fun. And not only will we plan it around that time, then we'll go downstairs and have dinner. I mean, Chef Don down there at San Morello is amazing, and he uses some of the honey right in the menu. So that's what's been fun too. A lot of restaurants are starting to use our honey, and I mean, it doesn't get more local than that.
Brian Peterson, founder, Bees in the D. Anything maybe we didn't ask that you want to add before we say
Yeah,
goodbye?
there is one other thing I do want to share because this is very important. We are coming upon what's known as swarm season. And swarm season is where beehives or bees that run out of room in their hive will actually split in half, about half, and they will form what's known as a swarm. And it's just this big ball of bees that are very docile. They're not dangerous. And if you see a swarm, your reaction or your gut reaction is, oh my gosh, I got to spray these bees. Don't spray, call right away, and we will send somebody out, or you can reach us on our website at beesinthed.com. We will come out, we will capture that swarm, and we will introduce them to a safe hive, and it can further our mission. So we're going to start to see swarms probably within the next few weeks because we're a little ahead of schedule. Usually it's the beginning of May. So if you see that, just let us or another beekeeper know because we want to make sure that those bees are healthy and stay alive and can do the pollinating that we need them to do.
Brian Peterson with us. What grade do you teach?
I teach fifth grade, and then I'm also an adjunct professor at Open University.
I want to take one of your classes.
Well, you're always welcome in my classroom once the pandemic, we can have guests. And then, of course, I do teach beekeeping workshops all day where we actually go in the hives. They're kind of on hold like everything else, but you are always welcome. You know that.
Well, thank you. I will say, though, I'm not smarter than a fifth grader. So,
You know what?
Or
A
any
lot
of
of
us.
times I am not either. These fifth graders are amazing. I love working with fifth graders.
I bet you're such a fun teacher. Brian Peterson, we so appreciate your time. Thank you again for being with us. I always learn so much when you're on the show.
And I always love being with you. So thank you for having me again.